Hello, friends. This is Confessions with Amy, and I'm glad you're visiting my channel. Here we share new confessions every day.
My name is Sarah Miller. I am 50 years old, and the last 15 of them I have devoted to work, which has become not just a profession, but a part of my life. Leading the sales team and serving the company's top 10 customers was not just a challenge, but a challenge that I took on with pride and responsibility. These clients are the biggest players in the market, and each of them is like a family member with whom I have built relationships for years, investing not only professionalism, but also my soul. I remember when I started at the company, I had little experience back then, but I had a huge desire to prove that I could be the best. Over the years, I grew into a leader, and the department under my leadership became one of the most successful in the company. My colleagues respected me for my ability to listen and make decisions, and my clients valued me for my care and reliability. It was more than a job, it was a mission. But this morning, everything collapsed like a house of cards. The new owner of the company, a young, confident, and, as it seemed to me, not particularly versed in business, called me to his office. His name is Jacob Hansen. He recently acquired our company and immediately began to change everything for himself. I heard people say behind my back that he wanted to cut costs and optimize his staff, but I thought, I'm not going to be affected because I'm one of the most valuable employees. His office was cold and sterile. A glossy desk, an armchair, huge windows that barely let in sunlight. Jacob sat down at the table, not looking at me, and started talking. Sarah, we need to talk about your future at the company. We are forced to reduce the basic salary by 40%. In the new environment, we are looking for employees who are willing to work for less money. He spoke calmly, but his words struck me like lightning. I stared at him, wondering if this was happening to me, the same Sarah Miller who had built a department over the years that now generated almost half of the company's revenue. If you are not willing to accept these terms, Jacob continued, we will be forced to part ways. We are moving in a new direction. His gaze was merciless, and in that moment I realized that he didn't see me as a human being, didn't appreciate my hard work and experience. For him, I am just a figure that can be replaced. I was silent, not because I didn't know what to say, but because a storm was raging inside me. Shame? No. Anger? Yes. A betrayal? Undoubtedly. 15 years of living, and it all came down to a simple choice: either accept a humiliating pay cut or leave, leaving everything behind. When I left the office, I was overwhelmed by a feeling of emptiness and anger. In the corridor, colleagues flashed by. Their views were different. Sympathy, surprise, fear. We all understood what had befallen me, and many of us knew that tomorrow I might be in my place. Back at my desk, I sat down and began rereading the emails and reports I'd been preparing over the past few weeks. Every figure, every successful contract, these are my achievements, my contribution to the life of the company. And now it all seemed so fragile and insignificant in the eyes of the new superiors. At that moment, I realized that I couldn't afford to break down. I'm not going to be another victim of corporate games and the ambitions of a young boss who doesn't respect experience and merit. Whatever happened next, I was ready to fight. Not only for your work, but also for yourself, for your pride and dignity. When Jacob, the new boss, said that we're cutting the base salary by 40%, I felt like all the ground was slipping out from under my feet. We sat in his bright but lifeless office on the top floor of a skyscraper, and I felt as if I'd been dragged onto the stage for a public execution. His gaze was cold and merciless, not a shred of appreciation for the 15 years I'd given the company, not a shred of regret. I gave my heart to this department, took care of each client as if it were a family member, and went beyond my responsibilities on a daily basis to maintain trust and increase income. Was it all in vain? We're going in a different direction, he said coldly, as if I were an old crutch to throw away. His words were like a sentence. I am no longer needed. Back in my office, I closed the door, sat down at my desk, and rested my head on my hands. My chest was filled with such grief and anger that I thought my heart would break. I wanted to scream, to cry, to beat my fists on the table, but I just sat there and tried not to cry. I was hurt not so much for the money or status, but for the betrayal. Then I remembered the same meeting a year ago when I first expressed the idea of developing a VIP client area. My initiative was then praised, and I received the support of the management. And now the new government has decided that I have cost them too much, as if the success I have achieved is nothing. In the evening, at home, in a quiet living room with only one lamp light on, I opened my laptop and started making a list of my strengths, achievements, and ideas. My head was full of thoughts. What can I do to not break down? How to start from scratch, but for yourself. I knew the journey would not be easy. Fear and uncertainty crept up on me, but I didn't want to be a victim of circumstances anymore. These years of work gave me invaluable experience and a professional reputation, a resource that I could use. At that moment, I realized I am the author of my own destiny. The next day, I contacted several former clients with whom I had built strong relationships over the years. They supported me, believed in my abilities, and offered to help. It was then that I first got a taste of freedom, the freedom to choose how to live and work. That night was a turning point. I closed my eyes and a new image appeared in my mind's eye, not an office with cold walls and orders from above, but a space where I manage my time, projects, and life. I was ready for a change, and to the fact that my success now depends only on me. When I first walked out of the office that day, when I felt the door close behind me, I realized that I didn't belong here anymore. For 15 years, I built a department, built relationships with the company's largest clients, and achieved results that ensured stability and growth. And suddenly no one needed all this. We're going in a different direction. The words echoed in my head for a long time, like an echo in an empty hall. The first hours after the dismissal were like a fog. Mixed feelings of resentment, shock, and misunderstanding did not allow me to concentrate. But a deep breath and the thought that this is not the end, but the beginning of something new, helped me find inner strength. I wasn't just going to give up. The first steps were not easy. I created a list of all my key clients, those with whom I have built trusting and long-term relationships. Every call, every meeting was a challenge for me. I could see that many of them were surprised that I left, and they were grateful for my suggestions to continue working outside of a large corporation. After all, they have always appreciated my attention and professionalism, not corporate titles. In this new world of entrepreneurship for me, I had to master many roles. Now I am not only a manager, but also a marketer, accountant, and even a public relations manager. Every morning I woke up with a sense of responsibility not only for myself, but also for those who already believed in me and started working with me. It was both scary and inspiring. Sometimes I wanted to give up, especially when budget issues did not converge, when it seemed that competitors were stronger and more experienced. But at such moments, I remembered how coldly and callously my new boss had said goodbye to me, considering me too expensive. I understood that my value is not in my salary, but in my experience and knowledge, which cannot be simply thrown away. Slowly, step by step, I built my business. Soon I managed to rent a small but cozy office in the city center, a symbol of a new beginning. It was not just a room, but a space where I could realize all my ideas and ambitions. I started actively looking for partners and specialists with whom I could work on equal terms and build a team that shared my values. The first major project I won was like a breath of fresh air. I remember my heart beating fast when I signed the contract. It was a sign that I was on the right track. This success gave me confidence and strengthened my resolve to go further. Of course, there were moments of doubt and fatigue. Sometimes it seemed that it would be easier to return to the corporate race, turn a blind eye to the injustice, and once again join the usual system. But my pride and self-respect didn't allow me to do that. I knew that if I gave in, I would lose myself. My story isn't just about losing your job. This is a story about how important it is not to be afraid to change your life, to fight for your values, and not to let anyone determine your price. I'm Sarah, and I didn't just survive, I was reborn and stronger than ever. After the first successes and confident steps in my own business, I felt that I finally found freedom. But life, as always, presents challenges that test not only our resilience, but also our ability to maintain internal balance. One day, I got a call from my former boss, the man who so easily decided to get rid of me. His voice was strained, almost panicked. "Sarah, we need help. We can't do this without you. Please come back." I listened and couldn't believe my ears. Over the years, he repeatedly said that I was too expensive for the company, that we were going in a different direction. And now, when the department I was building from scratch began to slip, he turned to me. It was a bittersweet feeling, but it was also very pleasant to know that your contribution really mattered. I asked him to wait, took a moment to process my feelings. I couldn't immediately give an answer. My heart and mind said different things. Pride told me to reject his pleas, but my mind knew that this could be a chance to show that I was not just an employee, but a real force without which the company would not survive. But I'm not the same woman I used to be. Now I'm free of toxic relationships and unfair decisions. My new life is not just a job, it is a path of self-realization and self-respect. I decided to leave the door open, but on my own terms. I wrote to my former boss that I was ready to help, but only if he respected me as a professional and a person, and not just as a tool for solving his problems. There was a note of respect and regret in his voice. But it's too late. Meanwhile, my business grew. I was able to attract new clients, expand my team, and create an environment where everyone felt valued. I worked not only for profit, but also to create a space where respect and honesty were the main values. In the end, the former boss was left with nothing. The company he was trying to keep without me was starting to get into serious trouble. I managed to build a life where I am free, proud, and happy. This story is proof that true strength is in self-belief and the ability to move forward no matter what. After I made my former boss understand my conditions, life began to play with new colors. I was no longer just a part of someone else's game. I was the master of my own destiny. Every day I woke up with a sense of freedom, and this inspired me to work with a vengeance. Meanwhile, the company of the former boss began to have real problems. He was trying to replace me with someone else who didn't have my experience, my understanding of clients, or my authority. Calls and letters of complaint from customers became more frequent, and management began to lose control. One day my phone rang, a number I knew well but hadn't heard in a long time. It was the new boss of the company, flustered and not as confident as before. "Sarah, please, we need your help urgently. We made a mistake. You are the key person. Nothing works without you. Please come back." I smiled and answered, "Thank you, but I'm going my own way now. Good luck to you." This was my moment, the moment of final liberation. I realized that I wouldn't go back to a situation where I wasn't appreciated. I built my business on honesty, respect, and professionalism, and this gave me not only success, but also inner peace. In my business, I have created a culture where every employee feels important and heard. We grew and developed together, and my customers were satisfied and loyal. I've become more than just a leader. I've become a leader who inspires and supports. The freedom I found gave me the strength to dream further about new projects, travel, and time for myself. I was no longer a hostage to other people's decisions and injustices. I was now the creator of my life. This experience has taught me that self-respect and self-belief are the main keys to success. And even though my former boss's company faced difficulties, I knew that my path was the right one, and only the best was ahead of me. It's been a few months since I finally left that company. A lot has changed during this time. My new projects were gaining momentum, and I felt that I was finally living my life full, rich, and free. The former boss tried to fix the situation by calling me with panicked requests for help, but I was no longer a woman to be bossed around or used. I answered coldly and with restraint because I knew there was no point in going back. Everything I did was for myself and my future. Sometimes I thought back to my years at that company, the success, the stress, the fight for my place. But now, looking back, I realized that the experience had only hardened me and prepared me for a new chapter. I've learned to put myself first and value my work as much as I deserve. I often thought about the clients and colleagues I worked with. Many of them continued to follow my progress and supported me. This feeling of recognition and respect was worth all the trials. In that moment, I knew that my story was not about defeat, but about victory, about overcoming circumstances and injustice. I was stronger, wiser, and happier, and now no amount of hardships could break me. Freedom is what really matters. Freedom to choose your path, freedom to be yourself, and freedom to live for real. And I decided never again to let anyone take that right away from me.